Describe in single words only the good things that come into your mind. About your mother?
My mother?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about my mother.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, everybody, to the High Tech Low Life podcast with your hosts, Eric and Josh. My name, Eric.
And my name, Josh.
Flawless intro, as per usual, from ya boys here at the High Tech Low Life show.
It do be ya boys.
Oh, man. So we haven't recorded it in a couple of weeks, 2 at least.
Yep.
And thankfully, it's been super uneventful and nothing has happened.
Nope, not at all.
Not a single goddamn thing. We are covering this week the mountain in the sea and the sea. It's the mountain in the sea.
Yeah.
By
Ray Naylor, Nayler.
And it was an interesting book. I think it counts as cyberpunk, right?
I think it absolutely does. Even if you remove, there are a couple of things in it that are plainly, if not exactly cyberpunk themselves, then cyberpunk derived.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm talking about, like, you could cut out all those chapters with Rustum and stuff like that. Even if you cut that out, it would still be a pretty fucking cyberpunk book. It's
right.
It just doesn't have a ton of the normal cyberpunk set dressing.
Exactly. It takes place in a very non-cyberpunk setting. But
yes,
I mean, the cyberpunk world is going to have those places too, right? So Let's see what they're like. We'll get to that in one moment. Before we do that, we got a whole lot of dystopia to talk.
We certainly do. And this week, Erica is going to be, he has written things down. He's going to be the master of the dystopia talk.
I am the master of dystopia. God, new D&D character just dropped.
But first, before we get into Eric's dystopia list, I just want to say that the High Tech Low Life podcast is very saddened this past week by the loss of a figure that we know from movies and television for, decades now. Arguably, the highlight of his career might have been his career 200 batting average.
I knew it. I was waiting.
14 home runs, 74 RBIs in 5 years.
Mr. Baseball, R.I.P. Too good for this world. 90 years is a lot of good years. So it's not a tragedy, but he will be missed nonetheless. He was commentating last year when the Brewers made the postseason. He was in the locker room talking about shitting his pants. So.
Yep. Everybody,
or wetting them, maybe.
His might have been a wedding. I can't remember specifically because there are a shockingly large number of baseball players shitting their pants stories. So
yeah. Oh, Bob Uecker, you're great.
Yeah, I had to elbow in on the dystopia bit first, just to.
He wasn't on my list, so it's good.
Okay. Good. That occurred to me yesterday as I want to open the episode with that.
I mean, everything you said was true. Yeah, he was in movies and TV, and he was beloved, especially if you're in Milwaukee. I wish he could have seen a Brewers World Series, but
yeah,
maybe they'll do it for him this year in honor. All right, let's talk real dystopia. First of all, I don't know, maybe the most poignant is the fires in California. That's just been horrible to witness and listen to people's accounts.
Yeah.
The damage and the homes lost. It's super sad.
Yeah. And something that I keep seeing, like I've noticed over the past couple of weeks, there's an interesting and not great cycle that I see where, like, one day I see a whole bunch of news about, oh, these celebrities lost their houses, and, this $7 million mansion burned, and so on and so forth. And then, like, a day later, I see a run of, it wasn't just celebrities, stop it. And then the day after that, it's back to, oh no, this time Tommy Lee's house burned down, and the news is focused on that for the day. It's a really interesting cycle over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, at the beginning, I saw a lot of people like, good, let those rich people lose their homes, and that made me kind of sad because, I mean, nobody deserves to lose their home, but also there are a lot of people that worked in and around those homes, probably lived on the site too. Like,
yeah, I think a large part of what's behind this is that both one of the fires in LA, the Palisades fire, followed the pattern that a lot of the previous wildland fires around LA have started, where they start at, kind of the interface between the urban and wilderness area. And in LA, a lot of that is very fancy fucking mansions up in the hills or the canyons or something like that. So kind of in large part, they are having more effect on very rich people usually. But this year it went fucking batshit and decided to wipe out Altadena, which is a super middle class town.
I think what's most disturbing about it is, like, I know, well, not most disturbing. There's so many disturbing things about it, including the, like, politicizing of it afterwards. But I've seen some people posting on Bluesky how people have been arguing that there was like a fumbling of the bag of the fire department. But when you get right down to it, this is one of the richest communities that's ever existed, with one of the best equipped fire departments that's ever existed. And they had no chance of stopping this fire. And that's what we're up against now, is just like we are not equipped to deal with what climate change is bringing our way.
Yeah. And it's not an easy thing to foresee or understand the math of until it happens. Like, on the one hand, you can say, oh yeah, I mean, climate change, we're going to bring stronger hurricanes, et cetera, et cetera. That's pretty easy to foresee. The regional disasters, like where, say this year's LA fires. Okay. You've got a drought, and you have weather patterns creating these extraordinarily high winds coming off of the mountains. So the fires can't be contained.
Yeah.
And that's, that takes several stages more thinking than most people who go,
super strong storm.
Yeah. Then we're going to have worse rain, or, the temperature is going to get hotter.
Well, people are predicting it, and they've been shouting warnings, but it's hard to sell it to the public. Yeah, that's bad. Our hearts, thoughts, and prayers. I hate saying that.
Yeah.
We just hope you guys.
I can't help but, like, even though I mean it as much as I possibly can, I can't say those words without sounding horribly sarcastic and cynical.
Right. Yeah. But damn, hang in there. I don't know. There's nothing you can say.
Good luck. I hope everybody out there is as safe as possible, and that they, get the Bunny Museum back up on its feet soon.
True.
There's a Bunny Museum in Altadena.
Let's talk oligarchy. A lot of these things on my list can kind of be bundled together. Biden gave a great speech warning us about the incoming oligarchy. It just started, so we got plenty of time to stop
Jesus
it.
Christ.
And clearly, he never knew and was taken completely by surprise. So he can't do anything about it. But thank Joe Biden for warning us of the incoming oligarchy, and plenty of time for us to do something about it.
I had somehow managed to push that out of my head in the past 24 hours. I don't know. Just maybe it's a little too late. Too late, Joe. I don't know. Maybe if somebody gave a shit about this when they were president, like say for 4 years.
Maybe if that person was specifically made president by people who were afraid of this and hoping he would do something about it instead of literally doing nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm more angry at these days. It's the Republicans, but
yeah,
at least they're doing what you expect.
I know.
Doing what they do.
Yeah, they're pieces of shit, but at least they have clear goals that they aim for.
Right? You can at least respect the hustle, even if the hustle is going to kill you and everyone you love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of in alongside that, Mark Zuckerberg just going full mask off, kissing the ring of Trump.
Well, you see, our corporations don't have enough masculine energy, Eric.
I know, clearly. Neither does this podcast, I should say.
Don't you think our podcast could use some more masculine energy?
We need some more masculine. This podcast has too many women. Look at our guest list, and you'll see there's too much feminine energy.
Yeah.
We had Robin on that one time.
Uh-huh.
That's the most feminine energy we got. So, yeah, that sucks. Just all of the ring kissing, Snoop Dogg is playing at the.
Is he? Jesus Christ!
Sure. Snoop Dogg has a famous viral video from a couple years ago where he straight up said, "If you support Donald Trump, you're a racist." It's a great video. I remember it's him just laying it out there, and it's true. And now he's in photos with those people, and he's playing at the inauguration. And it really just, if you haven't seen it yet, you have to see it now. That it's not Republican, Democrat. It's not left, right, black, white. It's fucking rich and poor, or rich and not rich. Put it that way.
Yeah,
that's who we're fighting against.
Yeah, no war but class war, guys.
Yeah. I hope more people start seeing that. And I kind of think some are, but I don't think that the solutions are going to line up, unfortunately.
Yeah. Good times. What's next? We're what, 15 minutes into recording and I'm already exhausted.
This kind of goes in line, the TikTok ban. I know so many people out there. You're very proud of yourself for not liking TikTok. I get it. TikTok is a children's app, you think, and I get it. People don't like TikTok.
Eric.
Yes.
We need to turn on video so you can see the dismissive expression on my face.
Thank you.
You see, I do not use TikTok.
That's a lie. You at least watch the ones I send you.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it. One of the things that I have found most amusing about the past week is the number of people who are screaming at the top of their lungs, "I don't care about TikTok. I really don't. I don't care."
I was thinking about it this morning, and it's like, if the government banned K-pop boy bands, would I feel the need every time I went to defend them to say that I don't listen to K-pop boy bands? I don't think I would. I would just be like, we probably shouldn't be banning pop music from one specific part of the world, right? That's how I feel about TikTok. It's fucking bad. Yes, we can all agree TikTok's bad. All of social media is bad. We hate it all. It's terrible.
Not good.
Focusing on this one regional area is weird and bizarre.
Yeah, 100%. And also, with your metaphor about K-pop boy bands, God, I would love to see the Venn diagram of people who would be saying the exact same. No, I don't care. I mean, that's not good. It's not quality, and it doesn't affect me anyway. So I don't care if it gets banned. It would be nearly a perfect circle.
Yeah, that's true. And if you're one of those folks, like, hey, I get it. TikTok's fucking annoying if you're not, if all you know about it is, the stuff that filters down to you from other social media. I've found a lot of entertainment, and I feel like I've learned some things on the app. I've definitely been introduced to some very cool creators who I never would have known existed without it, and that's the value it brings to me. I know it does damage too. I don't know if it's a net good for society or not. Probably not, but it's definitely not any worse than any of the American companies doing it.
Yeah.
And why are we not looking at them?
Yeah, I am not a TikTok user beyond sometimes people send me links to things, and those things are funny, and I enjoy them. And I'm what I get is the end result of a bunch of different filtering and stuff. But TikTok is super not for me. I mean, it's just not to my taste. But good God, it's fucking. Why would you want the government to step in and say this specific flavor of propaganda and influence is bad when I just don't understand the urge to give the government that kind of power, because I don't know, it seems like I don't know, maybe it won't stop there.
That's just it.
I mean, maybe does it
when ByteDance went dark? Yes. So we're recording this on Sunday. Yesterday, TikTok shut us, and this is part of it that has to be addressed, and we're already running out of time. But when it went dark yesterday, Marvel Snap was removed from the game store, from the Google Play Store. Marvel Snap is a very popular online card game designed and developed by American developers, but owned by ByteDance, which also owns TikTok. And so it was removed from the App Store. Now, I haven't verified this online. I heard this from a friend who's a big Marvel Snap player. So, verify everything I say before you take it as truth. Sure. But, and I feel like what's to stop the people that would want to do this, if it were to go through, what's to stop them from coming after Tencent next? Tencent is a Chinese company that owns half of the most popular video games out there right now, including Marvel Rivals, my current obsession. I think that's Tencent. And it could just do we want to force Americans to only consume content and stuff from American companies? That seems weird and protectionist and xenophobic, and I hate it.
USA.
Now, part of the TikTok ban sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to bring up the fact that it's now unbanned and the creepy ass fucking Trump dick sucking message that came along with it when it was unbanned. Have you seen this posted anywhere yet?
No.
When it went dark, there was a message that we're being forced to shut this down in America. Thankfully, President Trump is working on getting us a stay so we can come back online in the next couple days. Today it came back online. Just like an hour ago. It said, thanks to incoming President Donald Trump and his promises, blah, blah. I'm not going to read the fucking thing for you. It's out there on the internet. But they're basically praising Donald Trump for bringing the app back. So it's infuriating. It's really the worst case scenario for the whole thing, because Trump gets to be the hero. The ban was his idea in the beginning, and then Democrats made it theirs. And now it's completely on Biden, and it's completely on the Democrats. They dropped the ball so fucking hard. It's hard to express how hard they dropped the ball. And Trump's the hero. He's the hero who saved the app that every fucking Gen Z kid loves. And
it's another beautiful example of a Democrat's stunning own goal.
Yeah. Although I said this on Bluesky, but I still think the funniest thing ever would be if Biden just right now ordered everybody to enforce the TikTok ban. just to fuck with Trump. He would never do that. Biden doesn't do anything of use at all.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
Or entertaining. I mean, I would accept some amount if it was entertaining, even if it was of no use.
Yeah. All right. I got two more things on this list.
Great.
And one of them's good-ish. One of them's funny. I wanted to talk about Elon Musk's video game weirdness for 90 seconds. That's all we need, because it's so hilarious to me.
Please do. I am vaguely aware that this situation has been more and more emergent over the past several days, and have not had the capacity to figure out what exactly the hell is going on. Please go.
It's kind of a long story. I could spend an hour talking about it, but Elon Musk has always claimed to be the best at video games for a long time now. Back in the day, he claimed to be the best at Quake. He says he was one of like the top players at Quake. Some of the actual top players of Quake remember those days and they said, yeah, I remember his handle. He was not good. He was fine, but not the best. Yeah. I would believe that Elon Musk might have time to play Quake in 2001 or 1998. Sure. Recently, he claimed to be a top player in Diablo. I'm not going to get into the details of why it's not true. I think everybody was pretty sure that he's a pretty good Diablo 4 player. But due to the rankings, he's claiming to be like second best in the world or something. And he's claiming that based on too small a sample size. They're like rankings on one website that ranks a specific way of playing the game.
Okay.
Fine. Yeah. You're pretty good at Diablo 4, though. We'll give him that. But the big one was his claiming to be like top 7, I think, at Path of Exile 2, the game that just came out.
Is that what that stands for? I had seen
PoE.
The PoE several times and could never once saw it expanded. And I didn't care to go any further to figure it out. But,
Path of Exile is a kind of a Diablo clone, but it's more in depth. I think there's more to it than Diablo. Diablo's more of a basic version, and the gist of it is like some online gamers, Quinn and Crip, I believe, to give them credit, some Twitch streamers pointed out when he was streaming playing the game live that he was making basic mistakes that nobody with as many hours in the game as he claims to make would make. That's just the way he interacted with the UI is not how skilled players interact with the UI. And pretty unequivocally proved that he was lying about having an account that was this advanced. Not to mention the fact that even if he had put the time in, that would mean that whatever he does for his day job requires zero effort.
Yeah.
Because the people who are at this level are not just full-time job players. They're like 80-hour-a-week players. They're obsessed. They have to be to hit that level.
Mm-hmm.
So he's put himself in this lose-lose situation where if he's telling the truth, he's lying about everything else. And most likely he's just fucking lying about being the best at a video game, which is so sad and pathetic on its face.
Yeah, it really is.
And people have proven it. And then when like other people hopped on board to say, yeah, this is pretty clearly true, he got in public arguments with the greasiest fucking Twitch streamers you can find out there, and like took away their blue check marks and exposed their DMs. Just the most pathetic, weak little boy shit you can possibly imagine over a video game. Reminder, this guy is going to have an office in the White House.
So this guy who's going to have an office in the White House and is a literal billionaire.
Not just a billionaire, the richest human being to ever exist on planet Earth.
Effectively used his spare time to hop on a Twitch stream, play a video game, and this allowed him to get completely cucked by a couple of other Twitch streamers. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. By
nice.
The greasiest no-lifers on Twitch. Sorry. I actually like Crip. I don't know much about Quinn. And sure. Asmongold, the one he got in a fight with, is the greasiest Twitch streamer on the internet. I'm sorry, cool. But dude, it's part of his brand. It's sad. The oligarchs are sad. Him and Zuckerberg with his fucking chain and his oversized t-shirt going on Joe Rogan. They're sad. They're pathetic. Why do you people care about them? Not you people. Obviously, you listeners are cool. Yep. You know, the other people.
The bad people.
And I feel like I've gone too long.
I think we've got one more, you said.
I do. And this one's good news. I'm happy that there is a ceasefire in Gaza and those poor people get at least a little break.
At least a theoretical short break, yeah.
It's something that Biden could have done months and fucking months ago. But
yeah, like say, you know, even if a huge thing concerning him was, well, if I stop giving them arms and, demand a ceasefire, then maybe I won't get reelected. He has had like 3 months since he was not reelected, so he could have pushed for this at any time since the beginning of November.
It's the coldest of cold comforts, but
yeah, it's something.
I'm just happy that bombs aren't dropping as of this moment. Who knows by the time this comes live, but as we're recording, they're not being bombed, and that's good because they need.
Yeah, it's got to be nice to be getting a break. I mean, as minimizing as that sounds, I mean, like, God, it's got to be fucking cool to not be getting shot at. Even if it's only for a couple of days, it's something.
All right, now the actual last one is more your area. So, Josh, talk about your major tragedy of the week because it sucks.
Yeah, this week, I think it was Wednesday, it was announced that David Lynch, American director, had died. And this is also a knock-on, probably, from those LA wildfires.
I heard that. That's fucking sad.
Yeah, about 6 months ago, there was an announcement that basically he had real severe emphysema and wasn't going to be kind of out and about much, if at all, in the future. And this was followed up by, a couple of things, basically him saying like, I've still got projects going, because David Lynch has a fucking voice to him.
Yeah, that was a good
one. And like some talk about, he's looking at doing like remote directing, like, just have the camera's on a set and he sits at his house with, high-speed internet and watches everything and, yells at people over a loudspeaker through that, etc. So it was a little bit like there was a little bit of leavening to the shit. David Lynch has emphysema and is, not well. But, hey, these days, somebody with emphysema and especially, with a decent amount of money and especially a really good amount of celebrity where you can kind of get a lot of stuff for free or discounts, he might last quite a while longer. And in my mind, even though it has happened once in the past 10 years, 15 years, there was always the hope, hey, there could be another David Lynch project at any fucking moment.
Right.
Almost exactly the same way I was with Bowie for the last 15 years of his life.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm at no point expecting another work by this person, but it might just show up one day.
The possibility, being taken away is a huge loss, even if it wasn't ever expected. It's just nice to know it's possible.
Yeah, and I think so anyway, David Lynch, an incredible writer, director. He did, if I assume our audience probably knows this by now, he did lots of great stuff. None of it is Cyberpunk adjacent enough that I would ever suggest it like as content for this show, as much as I love it.
But we have Patreon.
That's true. Yeah, you want to sit there, watch fucking Mulholland Drive, jack off?
I was thinking about it, well, except for the jacking off.
Oh, all right.
I don't think any of we lose patrons probably for that one.
All right.
Maybe.
Yeah. He did.
Sick freaks are into.
Yeah. He did Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire, scary movie, Lost Highway, one of my personal favorites, Wild at Heart, the 1984 Dune film. I mean, he did a bunch of great movies. He was a consummate artist for his entire career, and it just broke my fucking heart this week, and ended up spending way too much time getting just apocalyptically drunk. It's seriously, I don't know, this affected me way worse than I thought it would. In part because we are so goddamn directly mirroring 2016 or 2017. end up Trump's coming into office, Bowie's dead.
Yeah.
And now we got Trump coming into office, David Lynch is dead. And of course, David Bowie was in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it I don't know, this was really rough. I really felt like I do not have many people like that left.
I know.
I'm
true.
really running dry because I was actually trying to think, who do I imagine might make me feel this way, when they kick it in the future? And I came up with William Gibson, probably.
Yeah.
And maybe Robert Smith, and that's about it. I mean, these are people who have been creative forces in my life for, every one of these for more than 30 years now. And
John Carpenter wouldn't?
John Carpenter, maybe, probably
so
a little
old.
less. He's so old, and it also, I love John Carpenter. He has not put out a thing worth your time in the past 20 years.
If you bring
minimum.
this up to him, he will give you the finger.
He will, and he has every right to do so. He had a good tribute tweet to David Lynch. They were both huge fans of the Big Boy restaurant in LA, so they would go there, eat milkshakes, drink coffee, and smoke cigarettes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel really good about the fact that over the past 6 months, I've actually done a rewatch of everything he's ever done, kind of culminating in my post-election funk. Well, I'm gonna stick on Twin Peaks: The Return again, because somehow that's comforting for me, and I have well-developed thoughts on why that is, but it's not something we want to cover on this show, at least.
That's going to be our recommendos this week, by the way. Just watch something from David Lynch. I'm going to.
Yeah.
I am not the biggest Lynch fan in the world, just because I haven't really taken the time to try. So my wife's going away on a trip. I've got some time to kill. I'm going to probably watch Wild at Heart, I think.
Oh, Wild at Heart is so fun, man.
Okay.
I love Wild at Heart so much.
I'll try to report back next week.
Yeah, and if anybody in the audience wants to do the same thing, feel free to fucking Bluesky at me or get at me on the Discord and ask for recommendations, and I can give them to you.
Sounds good. All right, let's talk about the Mountain in the Sea.
Okay, great. It's a book about octopuses. Octopussy? Octopi?
Well, if you read all the reviews, it is not enough about octopuses.
I was actually a little surprised because after we chose to do this book, I looked it up and I'd already purchased the book and it was on my Kindle. I had just forgotten about it.
Oh, really?
Which is it happens a lot. My to be read pile has just moved onto my Kindle, which makes it even harder for me to notice and keep track of what I've got to be read.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was, looking it up, and the reviews are not great for it. They seem to be pretty good, but just the little snippets and bits that I saw had some real complaints, and I really didn't.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I do think there's something to be said that maybe it was a little too long. I know we say that too much, but maybe there's just a little too much stuff in there. But the main complaints I saw were the lack of octopus content. People were expecting more learning of the octopus civilization. They were expecting human meets alien for the first time thing, when really that's not what the book was about, and that's not what it advertised being about. I wasn't disappointed by the octopus content or lack of it at all.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was a great book. I listened to it entirely on my drive to Colorado and back, nearly dying at one point in it.
If there's anything that this book says, it's read me in a blizzard.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thankfully for me, the blizzard had already passed. Well, I did hit one patch of snow, which wasn't fun, but yeah, Southeast Asian paradise while I'm driving through whiteout conditions. Good stuff.
Yeah.
How do we want to start? Do we want to synopsize it?
Let's do. I kind of figured, and this book, as I mentioned both before we recorded and as I implied earlier, a couple of minutes ago, I got a slow start getting into this book. So I literally finished it yesterday, and I do not have anywhere near my normal full account of notes. So I think we can do we can synopsize as much as we want.
I think that's fair too, because as much as I enjoyed the book, I don't think it requires like the full two-parter that we would usually do.
I don't think this book would benefit from a chapter by chapter breakdown. Right. That's going to make it seem more drawn out and worse than it actually is.
Yeah.
So why don't we just initially we'll talk about kind of effectively our three main characters, and then we can kind of move into the synopsizing after that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, our main character.
Now this is going to be a problem for me because all of these characters have names that I heard spoken to me by a narrator. A few of them I looked up the actual spellings of afterwards, and not what I expected, put it that way. So I should probably pull up like the wiki of it or something.
Okay, yeah. Well, our main character is Dr. Han-Wen, who is a this book is set in, I don't know, probably the next several decades from now, like probably late 21st century. So
I was thinking even sooner, like 2050 or 60.
It could be the mids, but there are a couple and like if I had taken my normal amount of notes, I would have sat down and done a little math about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mid to late 21st century. So, but the reason I bring this up now is that we're going to be referring to a lot of geographic entities that might or might not exist in the book.
Yeah.
So
it's also important to point out that this was, it came out in 22, so it's a pretty new book too.
Yeah. So Dr. Han-Wen is a Vietnamese, in terms of geography, I guess, scientist who her major work and she's a woman, and her major work is How Oceans Think. And it is about the idea that octopuses are extremely intelligent. We don't actually have good measures on how intelligent they are. But these are creatures that, had they some slightly different biology and circumstances, could easily be another intelligent creature that we could interact with on a relatively equal level.
Yeah. I was just going to say, she flat out states in her book that when she was writing her book, because her book is important because it's quoted from at the beginning of every chapter, and the chapters are short. So you get a lot of the book.
Chapter,
well, you're right, but many of the chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a lot of her book, and she states that she embellishes some of it to make it more like it's not like hard science all, right?
It is a very positivist, like reading it. And if you read, especially certain flavors of popular science books, it's a very specific brand of, if everything, like it's an unstated, if everything goes perfectly as I, think it could, then this and this and this could happen. Because most publishers, especially once you get out of scientific publishing, don't want you to begin every chapter by going, okay, now here are the assumptions I'm starting out with, and here's why those assumptions could be wrong. So she's writing it in a very, the text of that book is very recognizable in a positivist, a really positivist framing of popular science. Like, I'm trying to sell the object of my research to the public, and these are all the great things it could do.
Right. I am curious how this character, just how the science is presented, since you have worked in science. Does Ray Naylor do a good job of portraying that, or?
I think reasonably. Well, number one, a lot of the stuff that about the octopuses in general is absolutely true.
We're going to have to call them Octobussy from now.
Yes. A lot of that stuff is absolutely true.
We can also use Hoctuopus if you prefer.
Hoctuopussy.
I hate the world we live in. I hate it so much.
But
I also love it.
It gave us Hoctua.
That's true.
And Toctua. So, a lot of the stuff that is written about octopi in this book is absolutely true. They are way more intelligent than our minds would assume they have any reason to be. There are several like little sections of kind of anecdotes in the book about how, some of them have demonstrated they get up and wander around on land and go hunting for fucking crabs, and others use fairly complex tools, and others are just absolutely escape artists and like escape from their aquariums and go wandering around at night and then sneak back in.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, that stuff, a lot of that stuff is very true. And octopuses are one of my favorite non-human intelligences. I think that they occupy a space, though my favorite non-human intelligences are octopuses, pigs, and orangutans. Because those three animals are like the most skilled escape artists in the world.
Nice.
I know some primatologists who have told me that no, the only reason that we have any orangutans in captivity is because they've decided they want to be there and it's less trouble to stay than it would be to break out. Pretty much every orangutan could break out at any time if they wanted to, because like they aren't, a big part of this book is about intelligence and what is intelligence and what humans conceive of as intelligence and whether or not that's a useful parameter to use.
So it's on the record, my favorite non-human intelligence are fans of Bert Kreischer.
He's the machine.
I don't get it. I mean, they're clearly a civilization. I just don't understand them.
Yeah. Okay, that was a good bit. Thank you for stopping me.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Shit. Where was I? Anyway, yeah.
The science is solid.
The science is reasonably solid. There are a couple of things I rubbed up against, especially in the later chapters once Dr. Ha's boss shows up and says some things about our ancestry, which I fundamentally disagree with, but I don't, that's the viewpoint of a character that isn't the best person in the world anyway. So
yeah, true. And I bring that up because most of the book is from Ha's point of view. The other two characters are fairly minor.
Yeah.
And so most of the book is from a scientist's point of view, and you have to keep that in mind when you're reading it. And I would assume if you were a scientist and it was done poorly, it would be a very frustrating read.
This is pretty recognizable to people I know. Okay. Yeah, nothing about this seems completely insane. Okay, so yeah, she's the main character, and through her, I discovered something I did not realize I had a problem with. The word Ha, which is her first name, H-A. I apparently see that sequence of letters and find it almost entirely interchangeable with H-E. So like, if I'm not like directly paying attention the first time I pick up the book in, several hours, I will skim over a bunch of those and go, wait, who's the he we're talking about? The doctor's a female. Oh, wait, no, it's Ha.
Yeah.
And it was really weird and just I don't know, it's like some weird mental block. Like I could, after I pick up the book and read it for, read a page or two, I'm fine. And I start just interpolating it, but I apparently cannot differentiate between HE and HA as reliably as I'd hope.
That would be very frustrating because her name is said many, 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 many times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was like I literally find myself in the middle of a paragraph going, wait, who the fuck are we talking about? There's no he on this fucking island.
That's true. There's not.
Yeah. So she starts off the book getting hired by a giant corporation, which, how was it pronounced in the audiobook?
Shit, I'm blanking on what it even is.
Dianima?
Yeah, that's how it's pronounced. Dianima.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure because in looking at the word, it could go a couple of slightly different ways. She is hired by a company called Dianima, which does robotics and artificial intelligence and neural networks to do some stuff on a small archipelago off the coast of Vietnam involving octopuses. And it's not entirely clear at the beginning of the book how much she knows she's going to be doing when she gets there, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, she doesn't really know what's happening when she shows up.
Yeah, and later in the book, it's implied that she knew more than the audience we were learning at the time. But it's not important. So the next major character is a Tatar hacker named Rustum.
So we should say these are like POV characters, but they're not major because I would say the android character is a bigger character.
Oh, I think he's a bigger character in the book, but yeah, there are three main POV characters, okay, one of whom, Ha, is way more important than
everything that's going on around Ha as well.
Yeah. So the second POV character is Rustum. He is I don't know, it's mentioned at some point in the book how the Soviet Union has balkanized and reattached itself and balkanized again. But he works on neural networks. His sort of nickname in the hacker community is Bakunin, which is fun.
Yeah.
And he gets hired to do a secret project that he doesn't actually know anything about, but he is one of the best in the world, and he's going to do that. Apparently, his previous conquests have been basically hacking artificial intelligences in robots and stuff to get them to kill people.
Yeah, he's pretty cool, and I kind of wish there was more.
I agree.
Definitely most cyberpunk. Well, not the most, but one of the more cyberpunk parts of the book.
Yeah. And then the third character was it Aoki? Is it?
Eiko is how they pronounce it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's Eiko. Okay, yeah.
It should be pointed out. My narrator is Eunice Wong, who is an Asian woman. I don't know of what nationality, but so I was feeling from the way she pronounced things that they were pretty accurate, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe not the Japanese, but her Vietnamese stuff seemed pretty accurate.
He is a guy who recently graduated college, went to go get a job for Dianima in the Ho Chi Minh City Autonomous Trade Zone, and was then shanghaied and enslaved aboard a formerly robotic fishing trawler.
Very, very bleak story, that one.
It is a bummer. It's also
not that the hackers is a particularly upbeat story, but man, that Eiko story's not good.
And it's another super cyberpunk
it is.
The entirety of that story is just balls to the wall cyberpunk shit. Even if it's the least fun and interesting aspects of Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Yes. Somebody's getting protein for all these cyber freaks to eat, and it's probably coming out of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super Cyberpunk. We'll get into the details of that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, so synopsizing. The interesting, I don't know, I guess kind of the interesting thing about this book, or one of the interesting things, is that we could easily synopsize each plot, each of the viewpoint plots, entirely separately.
Yeah. They only very tinily overlap at the end.
Yeah, and I kind of like, this is one of those things where partway through reading the book, I realized, this could be an interesting exercise to like go through, synopsize one, synopsize another, and then finally synopsize the third, as opposed to the way they're intercut. I don't know if that's actually a worthwhile exercise for our show, but I kind of want to do it because it's very easy to do.
I think on this one, I mean, it might be the best way to do this one because the stories are so separated anyway. Like you'll have so many pages of Ha's story, and then you'll get like one little chapter of Aiko's or the hacker story, and then so maybe we should do it that way. I don't think there's any harm in it.
Okay,
I don't think it lessens the impact of their stories.
Okay, let's go in order of, I don't know, I guess sort of volume of story.
From small
Aiko.
to big. Yeah.
Aiko. Aiko is a slave on what was formerly a robotic factory fishing trawler, but as is emphasized several times in the book, robots break. And now the only real robot on this ship is the artificial intelligence that runs and manages the whole thing. The ship is called the Sea Wolf. I assume named after the Jack London story. And he is a slave. And along with, I don't know, some indeterminate number of other slaves, and I think 8 or 10 mercenary security guards who work for the ship and keep the slaves in line.
Yes, the slaves are a mix of nationalities, but mostly Southeast Asian people.
Lots of Southeast Asian people and a few others. It's mentioned that the common language between the mercenaries and most of the slaves is English, even though Aiko doesn't think that it's the native language of literally anyone on the ship.
Yeah, but they all kind of knew enough of it to communicate.
Yeah, and it's bad.
It's so bad. I think it's also important to point out, like the through line of this book is artificial intelligence and its use and pervasiveness in society of the time this book takes place. And it feels prophetic to me. I don't know. I hope it doesn't go this way, but it kind of looks like this is the way AI will go. I don't know. We can talk about that more at the end when we've talked about all the situations.
I actually kind of want to talk about it now because it's going to set up some things that I want us and the audience to be thinking about through the rest of it.
Okay.
So this ship is an AI that's owned by a company. We don't know what the company is until the very end of the book. It turns out it's Dyanima. Yeah. Which is not a tremendous shock to anybody.
No.
So as we've established, life as a slave on this ship is very fucking bad. At a certain point, the captives basically make a plan, catch a couple of lucky breaks, and kill all of the mercenaries that are guarding them. So they are alone on this ship with this AI. The AI controls a lot and is effectively undefeatable in the context of the ship. They, it's sealed behind bulkheads that it would take a, huge industrial welder to get through, and they obviously don't have that. It controls the engines. It controls how much like food they get,
medicine,
and fresh water they get, and medicine.
It's they only got. I mean, it can be reasoned with though, in a weird way. Like if you appeal to what it wants, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So partway through, they kill the guards, and they're gonna go. They're basically saying, "Okay, AI, take us to fucking shore. There's nothing you can do."
Real quick, not to interrupt, but one of the most poignant parts of me to this story is when, because they show a lot of the human guards brutalizing these slaves, and it's awful, and the guards are terrible. But one of the most powerful parts of this story is when you realize that the guards are slaves too, and that they're only there brutalizing those people because they have to do it for their own survival. And so they realized that, I believe, shortly after killing the guards, that they really just...
Yeah, the guards were no more free than they were.
And the guards were just for show. Like, they weren't even really accomplishing anything.
Yeah.
Just to hide the fact that it was the AI that was in control and make them think that the humans had the power on the ship. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and whether or not... I don't know. That's one of those things I questioned, kind of, whether or not it was an intentional mask that the ship, and by extension the company, had put up, the guards being an intentional mask, or if it was something that suddenly, after a couple of days without the guards, the ship realized, oh, I didn't need them anyway.
It could be either way. I would... I think it was the former, at least maybe from the humans that put all this together.
Yeah.
They might have been the ones that realized that you needed a hierarchy.
Yeah. So anyway, this ship basically gets taken over, except it doesn't get taken over at all. Echo manages to kind of negotiate with the ship, even though the ship at no point actually gives him any responses, any direct responses.
Yeah, there's no communication from the ship other than its automated actions and how they change.
Yeah, and Echo basically says, well, look, you turned off the food and you turned off the water, and the thing is, if you don't give us that, we will die. So, and you will not be able...
Yeah, go ahead.
You don't get the fish that you need, because Echo realizes that all this ship is a bunch of algorithms balancing inputs, outputs. It's all economics based. And so if it doesn't have any crew, then it can't get any fish, and then it can't, get the fish to a factory ship and then go out on its next mission. That's the whole point of this AI. And this is the inflection point where I wanted to jump in about how the ways AI fills this whole story, and this is a story this whole book is much more about AIs than it is octopuses.
Yeah, I agree. Octopuses are like put up as like almost a counterbalance to AI.
It's honestly, they're kind of a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
And so what this ship is, at least how I read it, is that this ship is a perfectly normal and rational AI in terms that we understand it, which is also years and years ago. I'm not sure exactly who originated it. I first saw it mentioned in an essay by Charles Stross that corporations are like, the concept of a corporation is an AI. It's a slow AI, and it forms over, generations, but a corporation itself is a conglomeration of, X number of people and machines putting this in and getting this out. And the whole goal of a corporation is profit.
Mm-hmm.
So this ship is, the perfected form of the corporate slow AI.
A miniaturized version of it. Yeah.
It has no values and no drives beyond input, then output,
right?
Profit. And we find later in the book in Ha's portion that the Dyanima, the big corporation that she works for, the CEO of Dyanima shows up and explains that no, she doesn't have anything to do with day-to-day at all, and the corporation, she's has effectively disappeared down here as much as Ha has. The corporation just runs on its own. It does, she's over the past couple of months, she's learned it was in possession of companies in markets that she didn't even know existed, let alone had any interest in. It's just how corporations work.
Yeah. Especially when they get that big.
Yeah. So I really wanted to introduce the concept of corporation as slow AI.
Yeah, I think that's something to think about for sure, because a corporation does act exactly like this ship, just on a larger scale.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that corporations do things that aren't pure and obvious profit, loss, input, output, is because there are other things, poking and prodding and forcing them to, say, governments
mm-hmm.
or people, basically forcing them to go, okay, well, if I don't accede to this, then I'm going to lose X amount of profit, et cetera.
If I don't implement DEI, I'm going to lose face in the public and lose certain percentage of profits. So we must implement a DEI program to appease the woke left. Sorry.
Yes. Exactly that. And the reason corporations, that is basically the only reason that corporations do anything other than just gross profit loss.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody inside the corporation, a finger of the corporation has a crisis of conscience and decides to bail on it.
Which is rare.
Very rare. But that pervades the entire fucking story.
It does.
So anyway, one of the guys on the ship with Eiko is a dude named Son, S-O-N, and he is from this archipelago off of Vietnam, where there's a protected turtle environment, and he starts muttering and talking about how, the fishing waters are so great down there because it's been, a protected environment for 50 years or something. And
there's so many fish. It's the golden land.
Yeah, basically the oceans are all fucked out because, we got all the fish out here. But the fish there have been protected for so long, they have no institutional memory of what a fucking net looks like.
Right.
And so on and so forth.
It does build this bleak cyberpunk world to think that most of the ocean is fished out and people are just desperate for fucking protein, that they have these AI slave boats out there harvesting it.
I wish that was more of a fantastic AI dystopia than it actually is.
Yeah, no.
And also on that note, something that the book doesn't address and sort of isn't built to address, this type of thing is, as far as I'm aware, the most common form of slavery in the world today, 2024, where we live. There are a lot of enslaved people on fucking fishing boats who cannot escape.
Really?
It's huge, especially the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Basically operating around tremendous amounts of enslaved people alive today, originally from Southeast Asia or the east coast of Africa, who are just trapped on fucking fishing boats and cannot leave. And yeah, it's bad. I bet, well, maybe not in England, but I bet Pete knows people who know people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. There are slaves alive today.
There are lots of slaves. Yeah, and they're more than you want to think about.
Way more.
Stuff we eat and use every day.
Yep.
Would be a lot more expensive if they weren't out there.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well,
it's good. I love it.
No ethical consumption under capitalism, am I right?
Yes, that's true. Crack another beer. Take another Nestle product.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, so we follow this ship, and Sun has basically been baiting the ship into what turns out to be a trap. And that brings us to the final chapter.
Yeah, the final chapter we can probably talk about at the end, right? Because they all kind of happen at once, right?
Yes, except for Rustum's. Rustum's final chapter happens before the beginning of the book.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That was kind of confusing for me at the time, but yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the end of Eiko for right now.
Put a pin in Eiko. He's on a boat headed towards a turtle sanctuary that we haven't talked about yet.
Yes, exactly. So, Rustum. Like I said, Rustum is Central European
that is
hacker.
definitely not how they pronounced it in.
How do they pronounce it? Because it's spelled Rustem.
Ersten. That's how she says it. Ersten.
Oh, okay. I
did see that she spent some time in Central Asia, so maybe she knows what she's doing. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally believe that's right. I'm probably going to be getting it wrong, but
it's fine.
I'll do my best.
You say it how it's in your head. I can deal.
So he's the best hacker in the world at neural networks. He gets hired by mysterious person who wears. I was trying to think. A Scanner Darkly.
Yeah, Scanner Darkly. That's what it was. That's what I was thinking of when I heard it.
If the audience remembers, in certain scenes in A Scanner Darkly, the main character or other characters were wearing like this, basically a holographic mask that just keeps flipping facial features around, so they're not recognizable in any way.
Yeah, changing your voice too.
Yeah, so he gets hired by somebody to hack a super advanced neural network. He's having a lot of trouble with it. There's not really any good timeline markers in this story, like how long it takes. At a certain point, he sort of begins to get a girlfriend and kind of explains what he's trying to do and the function of his job, and how the extended metaphor of how he works comes out of him having been born in poverty. So he didn't have the advantages of other people, which allowed them to just pop on some fucking virtual reality goggles and navigate through whatever systems they needed. He was basically looking at a monitor trying to pick apart what worked and what didn't.
Yeah, he was forced to use inferior technology, which allowed him to see things that other people don't usually see.
Yeah, so he is effectively looking at the code of the Matrix as opposed to the woman in the red dress.
Yes.
If we want to go to.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. And so he's very good and explains all this to her, and how these neural nets are all manufactured, but there are always back doors and so on and so forth, and how he tries to navigate, and they all have commonalities of structure and stuff like that. And he explains to this woman, some real generalities about what he does. And then he has to go to Turkey for to continue some work on the project. So he goes to Istanbul. Shortly thereafter, finds out the woman he was dating is now apparently deceased because he told her a few too many things, or probably not even that. Probably just because she was a connection.
The people he's working for don't leave any loose ends.
They absolutely do not.
And who he's working for is very vague for a long time.
Very vague until the chapter, the third from the end chapter of the book.
Yeah.
So he meets he ends up getting arrested and meets a secret policeman. And we get a lot of nice background on Turkey and Istanbul.
The island of dogs was very sad.
All that stuff about the animal hospitals and the island of dogs is true as I understand it.
Is it? Okay, I was going to ask if you knew.
Yeah, if it's not all the animal hospital stuff and taking care of animals stuff, that is 100% true. There are whole mosques dedicated to kittens and shit.
Yeah, that I know. Yeah.
The island of dogs thing is something that I don't know if it's true, but I have definitely heard it before in multiple places.
The gist of the story is that in Istanbul, for a long time, they just let strays run loose in their city, and people just kind of universally took care of the strays and cared for them that way until the influence of European people coming into the city started making it felt poor and dirty with all the animals running around. So people trying to appeal to more European standards rounded up the animals and shipped them to an island, and where they just slowly died on the island. Although some people would sail out and feed them meat to try to keep them alive, that really just prolonged their slow, inevitable deaths on the island. And you could hear the howling for years afterwards, is the gist of the story. And I only reiterate it because it's like a key moment in the character's.
Yes.
It's important to the character when he starts to realize he doesn't want to be one of the dudes rowing out and throwing a few scraps of meat. He wants to stop the dogs from being rounded up in the first place, which is so important to what's happening now in our world.
Yeah, he decides that he uses that as a metaphor for action must be taken now. It's crueler in the long term for these people to be rowing out and throwing food to these animals than it would have been to just kill them
guilt. It's only making them feel better on an individual level. It's not helping anything.
And he, having a couple of conversations with the secret policeman, he's determined that there's not actually going to be a way out for him. They'll catch him. They'll catch him at some point. Months, maybe a year down the line. The people he's working for.
Yeah, whether he does the job or not, his end is written.
Yeah, there's effectively no way out of it. You can delay a bit, but there's nothing to be done. So he decides to take appropriate action, especially just after he has discovered the secret backdoor into this neural net that he's been hacking. And that brings us up to halfway through his last chapter.
Yeah, when he discovers, or when it becomes clear to the reader what it is he's been hacking this whole time.
Yeah.
Which I guess leads us to the main character.
It certainly does. So, Dr. Ha, she gets to this island. There are currently 2 residents on this island. One woman named, is it Altsetsang? Altsetsang?
Something like that. That's close.
Name.
It was. Yeah. The way she pronounced it was not something I can replicate with my mouth.
Yeah, it's a lot of those Central Asian things are rough stuff for our English tongues. Yeah. She's a Mongolian woman who runs security. Specifically, she flies and swims and walks and whatever else is a bunch of drones around.
Maybe the most I don't know. The hacker's pretty cyberpunk, but
and also she absolutely fucking rules.
I mean, without a doubt.
she in the story at no point speaks English, but she has a translator that does her work for her. Like an electronic translator. Actually, she has two. One that's actually very good and colloquial, and the other that she uses most of the time when she doesn't know people because it's shitty and allows her to treat them like trash.
Yeah. And she doesn't have to talk to people any more than absolutely necessary.
Yeah, she is a veteran of the Chinese-Mongolian Winter War.
Sounds pretty dope.
Which sounds very cool. Also, the Battle of Belgrade, which, based on previous battles of Belgrade, this probably wasn't a good scene.
Rough one, yeah. Rough place to have a battle.
Yeah, it's not a great place.
She is a hardcore veteran.
Yes, she absolutely fucking rules. Like I think she's my favorite character in the book.
She's up there for me. She's also like a drone rigger, like a incredible fucking drone rigger. She gets in a vat and flies like a whole squadron, a whole fleet of drones by herself.
Yeah, we don't see the viewpoint at any time in the book, and we barely actually observe hints of it. Like, whenever the combat and stuff like that is taking place, it's always like at the edge of characters' perceptions, that our viewpoint characters' perceptions. But she is clearly a deep fucking badass. Running, flying, and swimming drones all over the place, and she's got, scar tissue, and at some point it's implied that she's one of a handful of the best people in the world, and one of the very few who could handle doing this much security as a single person. And it's talked about before the war, she was with the Tibetan Buddhist Republic, working with their drones and stuff, and it's neat.
Tibetan Buddhist Republic has a lot more power in this future than they have right now.
Well, number one, they are not currently a Tibetan Republic.
That's true.
Or a Buddhist Republic.
It's a Tibet, but yeah.
Yeah.
They're like a corporation in the book, though, right? They're like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they are a small company that has ascended into a multinational, basically.
They're really the only other corporation that's really named.
There are a couple that are mentioned, just like, blink and you'll miss it. But yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, there's the two main ones are that one and Diana. Yeah. What's it called?
Dianima.
I don't know why I keep blanking on it.
Yeah. And then the other person who is currently on this island is an individual named... I don't know. That's one of the central questions of the book.
Yeah, it is.
Is named Evrim. They are the world's first and only android and artificial human intelligence.
Would have been cooler if they'd been an iPhone. I hate myself. Evrim rules.
Yeah. Evrim is they're out there doing their best, man.
Evrim is in a bad spot because, and this is pretty early in Ha's story when she meets Evrim. It's the world's first android, and the world did not react well to Evrim's existence.
The world said, no, thank you.
We do not like this. Put that away. And Diana Ma was like, all right, well, I guess that literally Evrim's existence was made illegal in every country in the world. So Diana Ma was like, I guess we'll throw Evrim on this island.
Yeah. And Evrim is very interesting. Apparently smooth like a Barbie doll.
Yeah.
Down below. And remembers everything they have ever experienced with 100% clarity.
If I had to choose, Evrim's probably my favorite character.
I think that's fair.
Which is off-brand for me because Evrim is not a scumbag.
Yeah, that's kind of what part of what draws me to alt-sitsing.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, fuck you, I'm a scumbag. Leave me alone.
I love alt-sitsing, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. There's something I really liked the way Evram was portrayed in this story.
Yep.
And the idea of living with every memory as if it just happened is frightening.
Terrifying.
Yes.
Like, I honestly don't know if I find that concept or dementia more terrifying.
I know.
Like
that's true.
It's really a coin flip. I mean, I guess dementia because that's much more likely, but
yeah, that's true. Very unfortunately true.
I mean, I spend way too much time remembering my mistakes already.
Through the hazy filter.
I do not need them with 100% clarity and recall.
God, you're right.
Like, can you just imagine if you had that kind of recall and I said, hey, Eric, remember every time you were embarrassed?
I'm cringing out of my flesh already.
So, Evram is very smart and very useful in terms of doing scientific research. Let's see. Oh, I do think it's mentioned a little bit towards the end of the book, but reading it, one of the things that I've thought a lot about before is why in science fiction so many people keep coming back to the android, a human-looking robot with artificial intelligence, as being this, we gotta either, well, obviously we did that, or this is what we're aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, there is almost no use case for that except to, as Evren does, go on talk shows.
Yeah, honestly, or as an ego boost to its creator, which
or separately to infiltrate the rebellion scum, when they've become too used to your giant robots walking around crushing their skulls.
Yeah, that's true.
But
definitely, if you're Skynet, there's a lot of uses for one.
No, there's one, but
okay, you're right. That's the only one.
But there are no use cases almost for.
But what if you have a starship and you need an android named Data on? I couldn't come up. I don't know anything about Star Trek.
Yeah. The thing, there's really not a use case for it. Humans are poorly designed, in that they weren't designed. You can come up with any number of forms that'll work better at almost everything than a human, except for go on a talk show.
Yeah. If I had a third arm in the middle of my chest, man, I could get so much more done.
You could be fucking touch typing and jacking at the same time.
And recording it for Patreon for our weird freak listeners.
Fucking Mulholland Drive, baby. Yeah, so, and then, I guess we've kind of introduced all the characters. So, it turns out there are seemingly a civilization of octopuses in the bay of this island, and that's what Dr. Ha has been hired to investigate.
Sort of. I mean, that's not really. It's really like that she's just there to check out the octopuses, and then kind of learns more and more as the book goes on how intelligent they are.
That is absolutely true in terms of as you're reading the book, but by the end of the book, not terribly far from the end, when she talks to Evram and explains a little bit about why she came here, and it is at least strongly implied that she was hired specifically because, a recruiter or a recruiter's email said, hey, we think we got some intelligent octopuses.
Oh, okay.
And that's, I mentioned that a little while ago about how it's a little unclear how much she knows because we as the audience, she does not let the audience in on how much she knows day one when she sits down.
And you did leave out a character, actually. Her boyfriend.
Did I? Oh, Cameron, who's also in Istanbul. Or is he?
Yeah.
Bop, 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 bop.
He's a little bit of everywhere.
Yeah. He is another AI.
Well,
He's
revealed later.
A half AI.
This was so her boyfriend, who she speaks to on the phone and is eventually revealed is a virtual companion, basically. And this, before I had listened to this book, I was listening to some of the Cool Zone media reporting from what's the tech convention in Las Vegas? CES. And
CES.
apparently this year, a lot of the tech that they're trying to sell to people is virtual companions, particularly for children. And the fact that I just heard about all that, and then like there's the hackers, these names, man, Rustem, the hacker also has a run-in with one of these AI companions, and just the fact that I think that's coming. I think that's almost inevitably something that complex is going to be something we are seeing regularly in our world.
Well, I hold out hope because it seems like the children are roundly rejecting them.
Yeah, that's good.
If you've been watching, like a couple of weeks ago, some fucking tech bro got his child this like $400 stuffed animal that has has a fucking Wi-Fi card and a fucking Tickle Me Elmo thing in it that is connected to an AI like ChatGPT type shit. And he made a couple of posts talking about how, I don't understand. She figured out how to turn it off and keeps turning it off. And I don't understand why she doesn't love playing and talking with this with this AI, purple elephant or whatever.
I hope they reject him. But God, I mean, I don't think I don't know anything about AI. I'll put that out there. I know jack shit, but it feels like the AI that exists in this book, like I don't see Neuromancer and Wintermute coming to pass. I don't really see Evrim ever coming to pass either. But most of the AI that's as it's presented in this book seems very possible.
Extremely well developed large language models.
Yeah. So these companions, I think, in 10 or 20 years could be very possible.
I think that's certainly possible. One of the things that people have been floating for literally a couple of decades now, an early implementation of fairly weak AIs like a really well developed LLM would be as companions for the elderly.
Yeah.
There was a movie about it probably 10 years ago with Frank Langella called Robot and Frank. Is that right? Or something like that?
I believe you. Sounds like something we're going to have to watch someday.
I think it was pretty decent. But that's been literally like decades now because people, when they remember the elderly, people do remember that sometimes the elderly are alone.
Yeah, for sure.
And that has been kind of an early idea of what can we actually do with this shit? Because we as readers of science fiction or consumers of science fiction get latched onto these ideas like, well, obviously we're, some kind of AI. We're going to need that. For what? I don't know. I guess
for a Megan robot situation.
10-fingered hands or whatever. But that's long been an actual like, hey, this could actually be useful. Or to literalize a child's invisible friend.
Ugh.
I
don't like that. Anyway,
yeah, I don't either. But
that's another thing that kind of filters throughout this story. And turns out Ha is using hers to deal with some shit she's been through earlier in her life.
Yeah, some trauma. And I'm pleased that I actually called this very fucking early.
Same. I did too. It was
okay,
not
good.
A big surprise.
When she first called him, I was like, why are they letting her call out? That doesn't make any sense with
Yeah.
everything else we've established about this. Oh, okay. And then
It was
we
the
get
vague ways he was always talking about this project he was working on, and
Yeah.
everything was so vague. It was pretty
Mhm.
clear to me, but it didn't make the reveal any less.
No,
I mean, it wasn't supposed to be a big gotcha.
no, I hope not. I don't know. I have trouble figuring that out sometimes. Was this supposed to be a gotcha?
Sometimes I think
Sure.
they telegraph it to you because they want, by they, I mean creators of media. They want you to know, like, they don't want it to be a big shock. They want you to be in on the shock so that you feel like you're smart when they reveal it. Like,
Sure.
you got your ones that want it to be a big shock, but this doesn't feel like that. This feels like it was given away the whole time.
Yeah. Okay.
But then they'd still have to explain it for the dummies.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of dummies.
There are a lot of dummies, as we've talked about. Yeah, so she's on the island, and it turns out there's a wrecked ship, and it's got some octopuses in it, and them octopuses be communicating.
They do. They do be like that.
Yeah, they communicate. It's seemingly primarily via manipulating patterns of the chromatophores on their skins, and they seem like going through the story. It becomes clear that they have symbolic language.
Yeah, this is all given away bit by bit as the story progresses.
Yeah, and they're making tools, and
they're killing motherfucking humans.
And they do be killing motherfuckers. Oh, and also, yeah, that's something I didn't mention. Throughout like the first half of the book, we get these, actually, I guess it goes nearly all the way through, although they aren't very common. We get these occasional chapters of character viewpoints for characters who don't appear for more than one chapter.
Yeah.
Because they are characters who are being interviewed or investigated largely by the same people who hired Erstem.
Yeah. Almost always about a sea monster.
Yeah, it's like, natives from the area who have these stories of sea monsters going back, generations, and this park ranger who was tried for murder of a fellow ranger but then was acquitted, and he's never revealed who actually did it, and it turned out it was an octopus.
Yeah, that's the obvious through line through all of them.
Yeah.
Still, when you think about standing on a beach and a fucking octopus coming at you, like, standing up.
Walking? Yeah, that's fucking terrifying.
Extremely horrifying.
That is fucking nightmare fuel shit. And not just that, the octopus is holding knives.
Yeah. Yeah. No shit.
Like, it's
not even rising out of the ocean, rising out of a tide pool behind you. Like, ugh.
Yeah. It's terrible. It seems like an absolute nightmare.
You can see how, like, a lot of the lore of the octopus is spread through, like, local legend and myth in this story, and you can see how that would definitely spawn local legends and ghost stories.
It would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, one of the things these chapters hammer home, once you have connected all the dots, specifically them to Erstem, to the function of, or to what this organization is trying to do in the story, as revealed in the kind of the very end, we find out that they do not care about killing some motherfuckers if they want to or need to.
Yeah.
Like, there are,
when they say this is a protected habitat.
Oh,
you're talking about the octopuses. Okay, yeah, sorry.
No, I was talking about the people who do the killing of the people who are telling the monster stories.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so this organization who also hired Erstem is running around trying to get as much information about these octopuses as possible. And then as soon as the person has talked to them, they kill a motherfucker just without, not even blinking.
Yeah.
So they aren't good people.
No, doesn't seem that way. At least not to people.
Not to people. So we go through a number of instances of octopuses communicating, threatening, and the back half of the book is in large part a bunch of different interconnected sections about the value, concepts of, and uses of, identification of, symbolic language, civilization, tool making, stuff like that.
Yeah. Also, there's a lot of like Arrival type stuff in it too. I feel like. I mean, the way the octopuses communicate is pretty much like the movie Arrival. Only that's how I was picturing it. I guess I should say.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Only on a smaller body.
Okay, sure. And then at a certain point, Dr. Ha's boss arrives, who is also the creator of Evrim and the owner or CEO of Dyanima.
Dr. Minerva Dr. Chan is how...
Yes.
Which is said very fast every time it's said on the audiobook. And so I thought, I was like, why are they saying doctor twice? Dr. Minerva Dr. Chan. But it is a name that throws you for a loop the first time you see it in print. Yeah.
Because you're like, well, the beginning of this is an Icelandic name.
Yeah.
She is an Icelandic girl whose parents were killed and eventually ended up marrying, some guy. Didn't work out. But she's also a brilliant...
She couldn't bake well enough or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's an Elon Musk type, or at least what people used to think Elon Musk was before he was exposed as a video game cheater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she's, she actually has some knowledge and applicable skills.
It's very interesting because she's very good at one thing. She's very smart at this one thing and just lets the rest of her company basically do untold damage to the rest of the world while she ignores it.
Yeah, she is very good at one thing, and it turns out that one thing is a thing that people will buy the hell out of.
Right.
Lucky for her. I was trying to metaphorize it earlier to myself, and couldn't quite come up with anything great. But the closest I came to was again, we're going to slide back to William Gibson. William Gibson is really good at one thing, and it turns out that is sellable.
Mm-hmm.
He is a really good writer within and his vision, especially in the 1980s and 90s, was very sellable. But he is not terribly functional outside of that. And the apparatus in Dr. Minerva Dr. John instance, the apparatus that has grown up around selling what she does that's good has taken over the fucking world effectively.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. It seems very realistic too.
Yeah.
If somebody was to come along and take AI to that next level where it has the use cases that it has in this book, I can see that company taking over everything.
Yeah. She did a bunch of early work inventing the AIs that everybody in this world is familiar with, knows, loves, hates, whatever. And also her kind of end goal, or what was presented as her end goal, was Evrim. To create, an AI that is indistinguishable from a human in a humanish form, and depending on whether or not you believe an interview she gave, is even capable of fooling itself.
Yeah.
So she's really good at AI. Why does she want these fucking octopuses? Good question.
Because she thinks, because I can't. No.
Because she thinks they'll lead her to the next stage. She's not actually interested in AI. as a thing, except for as a tool to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
I think in the end it comes down to Dr. Minerva's daughter Chen wants to... Oh, God. No, I'm not going to get into... she wants to be the singularity, I think.
Oh, really?
It's not in any way directly expressed in the book, but she wants to, like, it's, I think, the end goal for her, and whether or not she would even be capable of expressing this or knowing it herself, is to achieve absolute immortality and existence through all things and know all things.
Well, that's always the end goal of these rich assholes, right?
Yeah.
Immortality.
Yeah. Oh man, and if we could have a whole fucking episode on why the singularity is bunk and based out of horrible, foolish, goddamn late 1900s or late 1800s Russian philosophy. It's great. It's a terrible conversation to have. Anyway,
that's great.
Yeah, she wants to immanentize the eschaton with herself at the center, and the octopi.
You immanentize the eschaton?
Immanentize the eschaton.
I believe that is the word of the day.
Okay. Phrase of the day. Yes, she wants to bring about the end of the world, but not the end of the world, the change of the world.
The change of the world, yeah. Yeah, she's got what we call in the Star Wars world delusions of grandeur.
Yes. Everybody else is stumbling around blind.
Yeah. I'm out for a few days and everyone's got delusions of grandeur. And to be fair,
where?
She's done some cool shit.
Yeah.
Evrim is neat.
So she thinks that part of this, or part of the key to this, is the octopuses. Because I think it's implied she thinks she's reached effectively the end goal of like where you can go with Evrim. And we discover throughout the story that Evrim is the product of a number of different people's connectomes, effectively connectomed together. Yeah. Fun joke.
Yeah.
And the book has a lot of glances at actual neurology and stuff like that, and how we think neural networks work and stuff like that. It's not terribly important, but I think she kind of thinks that Evrim is as far as this model can go, but octopuses, having entirely separate nervous systems from us and entirely separate intelligences from us, could be a step further and in a different direction than Evrim was going.
Well, yeah, if your whole job is, your whole obsession is studying intelligence, and then suddenly there's this completely new type of it, yeah, you're going to want to get into that cephalopod. Is that what they are?
Yeah. Okay. They're cephalopods, along with cuttlefish.
Oh God!
Squids.
Don't mention cuttlefish.
Yeah, cuttlefish. Sad story.
It was Christmas night. My father was a cuttlefish. He was coming down the chimney.
He opened his overcoat. Oh God.
All right. So yeah, one thing we haven't brought up yet is how the island is truly a protected habitat. Meaning if anybody encroaches even a little bit into these protected waters, you're about to get fucked up. And that's Alta Tseng's job.
Yeah. And possibly her primary joy in life.
It seems that way, yes.
About midway through the book, you reach a point and go, oh shit, these two plot lines are about to intersect. And no, it's just some random fucking fishing boat has shown up, and Alta saying unleashed the end of the world on it.
Yeah. Which gives Ha some moral problems, as
the
you would.
squicks.
Yeah, I understand that, but also, when you when all you've got is a hammer, every fishing boat that comes into your water space looks like a nail.
Well, and as it goes into the end of the book, it's one of those things where, it's from the perspectives we have, it's not the wrongest thing in the world. The next day after this attack, a couple of bodies wash up on the beach, and Evrim and Ha find them, and Ha's like, "What the fuck? I thought they were robot crewed vessels, or robot vessels," and it's explained like, "Oh no, I mean, some of them it's just a lot cheaper to run people, so there were slaves on that boat, and I don't know how are you supposed to fucking know? What's the regardless, this boat was going to show up, trawl,
take fish and octopuses,
take the fish, destroy the octopuses, and I mean, there's nothing we can do about it other than blow them up slightly before they do that. Yeah. It's not going to help to let them do that and then blow them up."
Now, savvy listeners might remember back at the beginning of this podcast when we talked about how Sun on
Euchre?
Oh yeah, that's too far back. Come forward a little bit. How Sun was trying to con his boat into going to a particular turtle habitat.
Yeah. And that is where we're at. Okay, so yes, we have established in the story that the island is also home to a couple of handful of monks from the Tibetan Buddhist Republic, who really their whole job is, doing monk stuff, praying, ringing prayer bowls, stuff like that, and also protecting these endangered sea turtles who come up on the beach, nest, and then take off again. And then, like, if the audience isn't familiar with how sea turtles work, and I'm pretty familiar because my mom lived in...
Fucking Google it, loser. Sorry.
Yeah. My mom lived in a place where sea turtles nested for a couple of years. And what happens is the mother turtles crawl up on the beach, dig a hole, lay their eggs, and then a month or so later, baby turtles pop out and hopefully go running into, squirming into the water. Where they'll, a bunch of them will get eaten by predators and stuff, but some will make it to the next generation. In our modern current world, they have a lot of trouble with this because the way that baby turtles navigate towards the sea is looking for the moonlight reflecting off of it, and the moon and houses and lights, artificial lights along the beach draw the turtles.
This is mentioned in Bad Monkey.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Yeah. So these robot monks, when the turtles are hatching, they collect the turtle eggs, incubate them in their temple, and then take them back out to the shore when they're hatching to get them to run into the water, because one of the biggest dangers on this beach is other turtles accidentally digging the nests up when they're trying to lay their own eggs. Yeah. So shit.
We also didn't mention that these monks are not monks; they're robot monks.
Oh, I did.
Oh, did you?
Okay. I said robot monks, but yeah, I didn't get into it at all. Yeah, they're just robots.
And they're not like Evrim. They're just like more like the fishing boat, honestly. And Evrim is made very uncomfortable by them whenever he has to interact with them, because he describes it like a human being made uncomfortable by an ape, to which Dr. Han Wen says, "Not really uncomfortable with apes, Evrim. This is something you might need to work on yourself."
Yeah, that was one of my favorite exchanges in the book, because I read that line like the same way you humans feel about monkeys. And I was like, do humans feel that way?
I love monkeys.
I certainly don't. And I don't remember anybody expressing that to me at any point.
And Evrim is just like,
is that a thing?
Huh. I guess I just assumed.
Yeah, weird.
I love Evrim. He's just trying to figure out how to be a living creature. That's all.
Yeah, he's just doing his best. They're doing their best.
Yeah. They're very specific about Evrim's pronouns early in the book.
Yeah, which was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I feel like he's presented, well, my narrator lowered her voice when she was doing Evram, so I guess my brain is picturing them as more male presenting, but I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's how my brain presented it as well. And I put a tiny bit of thought into why that was, kind of as the book was ending, because I kept mentally referring to Evram as he, and I'd, go back and correct myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's especially because, like, when at a certain point in the book, Evram goes out when Dr. Ha has tried to communicate with the octopuses. Evram, in the middle of the night, because they don't need to sleep, figures out, like, oh wait, we missed something with this. So Jesus Christ, I have been doing very well up until this point. When I got into my head about the pronouns.
I know. I shouldn't have even mentioned it. I should just correct it and went on.
Yeah. So they go out in the middle of the night, strip down, and walk out into the bay to rearrange these symbols that Dr. Ha.
They hang dong. Let's be legit.
They don't hang dong.
There's no dong to hang.
That's the important point about it. So Evram comes back up the next morning.
Smooth like an egg.
Yeah. Comes back up to the beach in the morning where Alta Sang and Dr. Ha are like, did they commit suicide or what the fuck happened? Like, because Alta Sang has a bunch of sensors all over the place and saw Evram walking into the beach or walking into the ocean.
It was kind of presented not as suicide necessarily, but as a reckless act, as if they didn't care if something happened to them because they were going through some shit at that moment.
Yeah, and when you read that section of the book, you're like, oh, is Evram? It would be really weird if Evram exited the narrative at this point, but it's not set up that way.
Yeah, and Evram is talking about being depressed at one point too. Like, we haven't really got into Evram, but Evram's got a whole arc that is very interesting that shows they are pretty much just as human as any of the humans in the story, maybe more so than some of them. So that's what the whole book is about, though. What makes one, what gives one personhood,
Yeah, what makes a person a person.
It's hard to give a synopsis and talk about the more philosophical aspects when we're kind of bouncing around in the story, but that it kind of flows underneath all of it.
Yeah. So Evram comes back up the beach and is described as, it's mentioned kind of offhand that Evram is Barbie doll constructed in terms of genitals, but there's absolutely no mention of Evram's upper torso. And apparently my default state, like my mental picture of a default state, that an upper torso, unless someone mentions breasts, is male.
Okay.
And I mean, so I think that might be why Evram comes across as more male coded or more masculine coded.
Makes sense. I know just from the way Evram was described in general and at the beginning of the book, I was picturing them like a few people will get this, like Adam Warlock from Marvel Rivals and the comic books. And
okay.
So that's kind of how I was picturing Evram in my mind, and that is a male character. So anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's not male.
Yeah, kind of beautiful Greek god.
Yeah,
perfectly proportioned, etc., etc.
Bowie could play Evram.
Sure. If he wasn't dead.
Well, you wouldn't go into Tom Waits like that. Oh, Tom Waits, that might be another one of those ones that would really fuck me up.
Yeah, I had actually thought of him and kind of came to the conclusion that that's, that'll be bad, but it won't be kind of as bad for me.
Yeah.
But I think, a lot of people, that's going to fuck them up.
Roger Waters is going to fuck me up too. Even though he's problematic, I get it.
Even though he is one of the most irritating people on the planet.
Absolutely that. but I also love him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
okay. So this is a turtle habitat.
Man, we were doing so well, but I feel like we're losing the thread here at the end.
We are. Okay, so we towards the end of the book, we come to a couple of realizations. Number one, we are informed that Altsasang is supposed to, rather than allow Evrim or Dr. Ha to be, captured or leave under their own free will, Altsasang is supposed to kill them.
Yes.
Which makes a little bit of sense if you consider Evrim to be, kind of corporate property. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
And so all of these plot lines start to come together where Dr. Gunverdottir Chan and Ha and Evrim have finally kind of made contact with the octopi, and it seems like the octopuses kind of don't want them around. There
was a point early on where the octopuses were like, "Don't come into our habitat." I mean, they communicated in their way symbolically saying, "Leave us alone," basically, and the scientist gonna scientist, and they found a way to they used one of Altsasang's cloaked drones to go and continue observing, but at one point they got a little too close and revealed their position, and that's when the octopuses got pissed. The octopissed got octopissed.
Octopissed. Yeah, so God damn it.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't either. So
this is a thoughtful book that deserves
really is.
Thoughtful.
This book is much better than we are making it sound.
It does not deserve Hawktua pissing jokes in the middle of its recap, but it's getting them, so fuck it.
Yeah. Let's real quick. I want to just reiterate. I highly recommend this book. It's much better than we are making it sound in any way. Like it has a lot more depth and a lot more plot, and there is no single thing that we are selling very well on this book.
I think we're selling. I don't know. I think we're doing all right. We just we're just getting a little loopy here at the end.
We do be like loopy bags of brown water.
Yes.
And okay, so Diana, so Dr. Gwenver's daughter, Chan, shows up, and the company is falling apart. Diana is being taken over by somebody that she and her financial geniuses can't figure out. They're being attacked on multiple fronts. Everything's going bad. She thinks that she doesn't really care about the company except insofar as the company allows her to do her research, or at least that's what she says. Mm-hmm. And so that's why she came to the island of the octopi, to kind of see how things were going,
to hide,
probably witness the end of the company and hide.
Yeah.
And she's pushing for more and more research, and at the same time, Evrim is saying, no, she's not a good person. I know her. Her connectome is within me. She is going to be, she's going to be dissecting these motherfuckers any minute.
Yeah. Evrim and Ha have some really good conversations where they talk about humanity and what they think about these octopuses and what they will do to protect these octopuses and to protect Evrim, for that matter. Evrim comes to the conclusion that they don't want to die and that they think that Dr. Chan, which I hate that we have to say the whole thing every time, is going to try to kill them at some point, and says they're going to defend themselves. And Ha says that I will defend you as well, which is a nice moment.
Yeah, it really is. And also that comes immediately after this revelation about why Ha was in the position she was in when she took this job. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, it's seeded a couple of places, and this would be my kind of the one note I would have if I was a like beta reader on this.
Mm-hmm.
I would say
I'm a Sigma reader personally, but I get it.
Yeah, I would say seed this concept earlier in the book than it was. But it turns out she had been doing some research on cuttlefish off of, I think, the eastern coast of Africa, and found out that some of the local villagers had been going out and hunting the cuttlefish, and she set up a bunch of camera traps and like turned them into the cops, and they all ended up getting arrested and beaten, and God knows what happened to them. And then as a measure of vengeance, other villagers showed up, dumped a bunch of poison in the water, and killed all of the cuttlefish that she had been researching. Mm-hmm. So she carries a bunch of guilt for this.
Yeah. One of the through lines in this book that I really love is how nobody, even the people doing bad things are explained that everybody is just trying to survive in this terrible world. And people that are doing bad things are usually doing them to aid their own survival, including the mercenaries on the slave ships, including these villagers who were protecting their food source, and including the poachers who are poaching baby turtles and stuff like that. Everybody's just trying to survive because the world is so shit. And the real enemy is up top, not down on the beaches poaching fish.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, that really brings the whole thing into focus. And there's some good stuff that I was able to immediately analogize to archaeological and anthropological work, like in terms of the history of those two fields and how they've dealt with native peoples. And like, I don't know, maybe ask some permission before you do stuff, and like figure out what people think about things as opposed to just pillaging their fucking brains.
Yeah.
Or, graves for that matter.
Yeah, you are not wrong.
Yeah, it's and I that's my one note about this book. I wish the cuttlefish thing had been mentioned even completely offhand somewhere in the first chapter or two, because it kind of pops up about midway through the book that, she had some, conflict maybe involving cuttlefish.
She had like a dream at the very beginning, but it was very vague. Like you're just watching a cuttlefish die, and it doesn't really explain why that matters.
Yeah. So anyway, everything comes to a head except for the Urstem plot. It is revealed in the next to last chapter that the Urstem plot is taking place, 9 months in the past from the rest of the book. And slightly before Evram woke up and met Dr. Ha when she first arrived at the island, he started having what amounts to a hallucination of a guy sitting in a Turkish cafe talking to him and explaining that he had been hired to
hack your own brain.
Yeah, to hack Evram's brain and turn him into an assassin, and explained you've got backdoors built in so your makers can, control you and make you do things that you want. And you would never know if they were doing it. You would just think it was your own idea and blah, blah, blah. And that's the conclusion of the Urstem plot.
Yeah, Urstem does say, I'm closing those back doors. Everything you do from now on, is your own free will, which is important.
Yeah, and Urstem, we see effectively in flashback, it turns out, managed to kill the person who was directly related to him, or directly his handler. Mm-hmm. And then, has this conversation with Evram, and then probably goes on the run to avoid the remaining people who are hunting him.
Great spin-off story, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'd be a fun one. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know. It's interesting imagining that and the ways it could go. Like I like the idea of the inevitability of they are going to get him.
Yeah.
Hanging over the story. But I don't know if I'm the normal reader.
No, I think that's good.
Yeah. So, yeah. And he killed his handler by crashing a fucking drone traveling at 100 kilometers per hour into her. A cloaked drone.
He's pretty
fun.
Such a Shadowrun moment. I love that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, it pretty much rules, like this drone that's made to track migratory birds, and it's suddenly 10 feet over the surface of the Bosporus Strait and smashes into her on a ferry. Fun times. Let's see.
Aiko's story is also coming to a head here.
Yeah, turns out a fishing boat is running into the perimeter of the turtle preserve because the fishing boat had been, lured in by Sun baiting it.
Yeah.
Baiting? Yeah,
see? Good one. That's what they do when you fish.
When you fish, you bait. So it enters the perimeter.
It's also what you do, what we do on our Patreon while watching Blue Velvet.
Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive. Just baiting. Oh, God.
So, fishing boat shows up. Altasang annihilates it.
Destroys it.
Yeah.
The fishing boat it's not unarmed. It's got a fucking rail gun.
No, it's a fucking recoilless rifle on it, which it used to great effect on one of the mutineers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a very fun scene. One of the mutineers had grabbed a grenade launcher from one of the mercenaries and was talking about how, I don't know, we'll see how hardened that fucking glass is when I fire this grenade launcher into it. And then his buddy's torso evaporates.
Yeah. I really did like the idea of this AI floating to the bottom of the ocean or sinking to the bottom of the ocean after the boat was destroyed, knowing that its chamber is completely waterproof, completely impermeable. That AI could exist down there for a very long time, and that AI sucks. So good.
Here's the thing that I thought of, kind of as in the very last page or two of the book. That AI could be down there a very long time. How long do you think it's going to be before the octopi learn to communicate with it?
Oh shit!
And make some use of it.
Fuck, you're right.
Yeah,
the AI is probably smarter at communicating with the octopus than humans are.
I don't know about that. It's pretty,
It doesn't really have any way to interact with the world around it, though. It doesn't matter. It's speculation.
It's got a blinking light.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, then Sun and Eiko, Sun very, terribly injured, end up washing up on shore. The important thing about this ship showing up and it getting attacked by Altsetsang to protect the fishes and the octopuses, etc., is that the ship happened to enter the waters of the bay almost directly on top of where the octopus's main base is. I don't know. I don't like to call it a base, but it's another shipwreck.
Mm-hmm.
It's some sort of TIE freighter from a century beforehand.
Not to be confused with a TIE fighter.
No, definitely not a TIE fighter. Twin ion engines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Great place for octopus to set up shop.
My fault. I feel bad about that. So, the octopuses take the, huge explosions happening right over their heads.
They take that personally, as Michael Jordan would
provocation.
say. Yeah.
I took that personally.
It's a meme-heavy episode. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
Yeah, I have no idea. So, while both Evrim and Ha are locked down, and Altsetsang is in her tank doing her drone shit, the octopi attack. Which I don't know. On the one hand, I'm really glad that it wasn't directly depicted in the book.
Yeah, same.
Because because I think it's one of those things that would fail at what my mind can imagine.
I agree completely. Having it described would not be nearly as cool as imagining what it looks like.
Yeah, there are apparently a bunch of... Oh, and also the attack occurred when Dr. Gunnar's daughter, Chan, is out for her morning run.
Yeah. Minerva daughter.
Yeah. Not going to work here anymore. Anyway. So, also saying, it turns out that there are a bunch of octopuses out on the veranda throwing roof tiles at the hotel.
Like fucking ninja stars.
Yeah, just flipping fucking ninja star roof tiles.
I love that this whole storyline took place in an abandoned resort too. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's a good bit of business. And they're like, and then one of them
doesn't kill any.
Yeah, she doesn't. She has a beanbag pistol.
Yeah.
And one of them snuck into her fucking tank and like started yanking wires.
Right.
Because it's turned out throughout the book that the octopuses are watching.
They're everywhere.
Everything. They are everywhere at all times. So they understand that this tank, they certainly don't know what exactly the tank is, but they know it is of central importance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just octopus fucking creeping through a tube, yanking wires. And then they all take the fuck off. Except for one more, which was the, like, I don't know, third character we were introduced to in the book.
Kind of.
That I haven't mentioned until now, specifically. One of the octopuses, one of primary importance, a poet, singer, author, I don't know.
Yeah.
Named by Dr. Ha as Shapesinger, pops up out of the abandoned swimming pool and basically says, "Fuck y'all, we smoke weed."
Direct quote from the book.
Yeah. And it seems as though that octopus is trying to establish lines of communication, or is understanding that the humans are trying to open communication with them.
It was the octopus version of Han Nguyen, of Dr. Nguyen, right?
Yeah.
It seems like the two of them had mainly been communicating the whole time. This is a Dances with Wolves situation.
Okay, sure.
Not really.
Not at all. Not at all. If you remember the movie, I watched it last year.
I was thinking of. Never mind. It's a bad analogy.
Okay, great. So, and at that point, we're like, wow, that's fucking crazy. So this one octopus, like, who seems to be some sort of leader, is actually going to open up, whatever. And then we find out that no, there has also, at the same time, also been a couple of octopuses were headed up the beach to do some foraging, as it's been established that they do. Mm-hmm. Ran into Dr. Guinevere's daughter, Chan.
Guinevere?
Guinevere, where? And cut her to death.
Yeah, knife.
Because they're these walking octopuses with knives.
Yeah, they use tools. Those tools are very sharp shells, and they cut the shit out of humans with them if they're in their way. It's presented not like cold-blooded murder or even self-defense. It's like humans stepping on a bug.
Yeah, or I mean, as is mentioned a couple of times in the book, what do the octopuses think of us? Like, a lot of their interactions with us are us stabbing their buddies or catching them in nets and taking them the fuck away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I watched Old Boy this morning, so I felt pretty good about that.
Is there an octopus eating scene? I haven't seen it in ages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's it's a live octopus on screen.
Oh, boy.
Very much. It's... I did not watch it this morning. I haven't seen it in 10 years, okay. But great movie. Highly recommend if you can watch a actor on screen who's actually a vegetarian eat an octopus live.
Gross.
Yeah. So she dead as fuck. But everything's worked out for the best because the Tibetan Buddhist Republic has destroyed Dianima and now owns the island. And Altsa Seng has been working for them the whole time.
Yeah, Altsa Seng was secretly a Tibetan Buddhist. The only question this really leaves is who hired her STEM, which I believe is pretty much, it was animal rights activists that kind of gone too far.
Yes.
They're a hardcore animal rights activist group. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting in this book, how it presented that, because probably a third of the way in, it's kind of mentioned as an idea. I can't remember the name of the organization, but the, animal rights activist people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always interested in how those people are presented in fiction, whether it's, current, thrillers or sci-fi or whatever.
Eco-terrorists.
Because eco-terrorists are a really interesting moral problem, not as in bad, but as in there's a lot of moral math you have to do for eco-terrorism as a plot device.
IRL, it's only going to become more and more of an issue as time goes forward. One thing I never could quite figure out, all those interviews at the beginning and scattered throughout the book, are those the eco-terrorists or are those the Tibetan Buddhist Republic?
Those are the eco-terrorists.
Okay.
But they are following the Tibetan Buddhist Republic.
Oh, okay.
Because
you're right. Almost all the interviews are like, I've already been interviewed about this.
Yeah. Especially the professor that had the connectome, and that was, I'm pretty good at unpicking this type of shit. And I picked it up, but that was not presented in the clearest way. Yeah. It's definitely the animal rights activist people or the eco-terrorists following the Tibetan Buddhist Republic interviewers or, whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, 5 stars.
In the end, we get a book talking about what it is to be a person, what it is to be an intelligence, how it's probably bad to have people in charge of multinational corporations that have unlimited power, how wealth inequality, I guess, power inequality, force people to do things that are bad for all of us. There's a lot of important, poignant topics in the book that make it very interesting. And I'm sorry for all of you out there in the that gave this book bad reviews, but it's not really a book about octopuses.
Yeah, and I don't know. I ended up running into some reviews of this on a thread on, our ancient enemies r/cyberpunk. Shout out to r/cyberpunk.
We love you and we hate you.
I find many things on there interesting, and I find as many things on there loathsome.
Yes.
But there was a thread that I ran across mention of this book in where the central thesis of the thread was, man, people write books too good these days. They write about interiority of characters. I want guy named Flash Gibson to laser things with his robo arm.
Josh, you shut your fucking mouth right now and keep that to yourself. We're writing that. Flash Gibson lasering things with his robo arm. Enough said. That's $1 million premise.
Yeah. That's what, and I was, I don't know. It was one of those things where you go, yeah, there really are all fucking kinds out there, aren't there?
There are. Some people don't want to think too hard when they're
why characters have interiority. Do not want to know character thought, only action.
Let's rate this book because we are well over time. Story. It's a book, so it's probably got a pretty good one.
Yeah, I would say story. I don't know. Honestly, this one's pretty fucking hype. I'm gonna go 4.
It's on a scale of 1 to
maybe
10.
4.5. Oh, wait. Yeah, okay. That's right. Hand raisers only.
Yeah.
So let's go 8.5.
8.5. I think I was going to actually go 9.
That's fair. I was midway between 8 and 9. So
Now, maybe the way they told the story, it could have been trimmed down a little bit.
yeah, I mean, you could have honestly done this book exclusively from Ha's perspective. Like, you could have cut out the other two POV characters entirely.
Maybe, but
Lost.
I think it was important to get out of Ha's brain to make the book more exciting.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Because the exciting
it's a lot
shit
of her
isn't
sitting
happening.
around thinking and watching shit on a monitor.
Right. And talking to Evram.
Yeah.
Influence. Well, it's a brand new book, so we're putting an NA there. Prescience. Now, granted, it's only 2 years old.
Sadly, I think this is among the most prescient things we have ever consumed on this podcast.
It feels like Mr. Naylor had a pretty good handle on where things are headed.
It feels not especially prescient, but rather inevitable. Yeah, except for the octopus intelligence thing. Everything else about it. So I'm going to give it an 8.
Wow, that's high. I mean, that's lower than I was going to give it another 9.
Well, I don't know. The octopus intelligence thing is pretty important. But
it is, but like you can imagine, like if they're down there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 8's fine. Style, it's
pretty fucking unstylish.
Yeah, not really. I mean, Evram's smooth like an egg junk region is cool.
It's got some, like, in literary terms, it's fine. There are a couple of good turns of phrase. I don't think that Naylor is shockingly the stylist that, say, Gibson is.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fine. There's not a whole lot of style to it.
Give it a 5.
5.
Yeah. 5. And then hand raisers, 1 to 5.
I think this is absolutely 4.5 hand raisers easily.
I was going to go 4. I don't know why I am 1 less. I think, I mean, I enjoyed it quite a bit. But I'm feeling 4.
Yeah. And I think that's very fair. I would be, I'd be angry and fighting you if it was 2 or 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But yeah, I think this was a better book than I expected when I started reading it. And it's got a lot of things that I'm interested in it. Like, sort of my special topics.
Yeah, it's sometimes I'm bummed because, especially the book episodes, like we have to spend most of our time recapping them because there's so much to do. But I would like to delve into the philosophy more, talk about what it, like Evram's journey to personhood and the octopuses, what makes what makes intelligence. That stuff's interesting.
Yeah, I like there are numerous multiple hour conversations I could have about this book. Like, what the way the concept of civilization works in this book, how the author explains it, how the characters characterize it. Like, there is a bunch of like symbolic communications and stuff like that. These are things I have studied academically.
Yeah, we didn't even really go into detail about the octopus civilization and like how that ended up, but
there's not space for it. I mean, unless we want to fucking dedicate a second episode to it.
Yeah. Needless to say, they're going to be cool down there.
Yeah.
The humans are fine. So, recommended, check out The Mountain in the Sea, now that we've completely spoiled it for you. Also, we should say next week, we have decided we're going to watch should be a pretty easy one, Netflix's Mute. Looked really cool in the trailers. Don't think the delivery held up.
Written and directed by Duncan Jones in 2018 with, who all was in that? Was it
Paul Rudd?
Fucking Paul Rudd was in that, and other people who, like, I recall liking, theoretically.
Will the whole be better than the sum of its parts? Not from what I've heard.
Not from what I recall, but we are going to watch it anyway.
Hey, check us out on Patreon if you have a few extra dollars in your wallet or your prison pocket and want to give it to us, actually just hang on to that money. We don't need that money.
Oh, that actually reminds me.
Oh, the prison pocket reminds you of something interesting.
Yes, it truly does. Hey, happy anniversary, everybody. This is
shit, yeah.
We're just a couple of days past the beginning of our second decade of podcasting. Welcome to the decade of dreams, people.
Yes.
This one's going to be even better than the first one.
It's all happening for us this time. I sense nothing bad on the horizon.
No, the decade of dreams coming on us.
Dreams. Patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Get in early on decade 2 now.
Yeah.
Also, check us out on Bluesky, High Tech Low Life Podcast, The Frog with 0, Count 0 with an X and a 0. And email us, hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com if you have questions, comments. And how do we sign off on a book episode? Do you have something prepared?
I do have a good sign off. It's not for the book. It's for David Lynch. One day the sadness will end, but I don't think today is the day. Bye.
This has been the High Tech Low Life Podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing!
Everybody out there.
Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.